This is SkyTour News for June 3rd. I'm Amanda Curran. Today, in 1965, the launch of Gemini 4 and the first American spacewalk. The second manned and first long-duration mission in the Gemini program, the major objectives of the 4-day mission were demonstrating and evaluating the performance of spacecraft systems in a long-duration flight and evaluating effects on the crew of prolonged exposure to the space environment. Secondary objectives included demonstrating extravehicle activity in space, conducting station keeping and rendezvousing maneuvers with the second stage of the launch vehicle, performing significant in-plane and out-of-plane maneuvers, demonstrating the ability of the orbiting attitude and maneuver system to back up the retro rockets, and executing 11 experiments. The spacecraft hatch was opened at 4 hours 18 minutes into the flight, and Edward White exited 12 minutes later, becoming the first American astronaut to walk in space. Attached to the craft by a 25-foot tether and controlling his movements with the handheld oxygen jet propulsion gun, White remained outside the capsule for just over 20 minutes. The spacecraft landed in the Atlantic Ocean, about 725 kilometers east of Cape Kennedy, some 65 kilometers from its normal landing point. The crew boarded a helicopter 34 minutes after landing and were transported to the prime recovery ship, the aircraft carrier Wasp. Gemini 4 was the first mission to be controlled from the Mission Control Center in Houston. Today in 1980, the crew of Soyuz 36 returns to Earth aboard Soyuz 35. Soyuz 35 was a 1980 Soviet manned spaceflight to the Soyuz 6 space station. It was the 10th mission to and 8th successful docking at the orbiting facility. The Soyuz 35 crew were the 4th long-duration crew to man the space station. The Soyuz 35 crew docked with and entered the space station on April 10th using the vacant front port, where the cosmonauts then replaced the components of the attitude control system and life support system, installed a new caution and warning system, synchronized the station's clocks with those of the TSUP Mission Control Center, added a 180-pound storage battery, and used Progress 8 to refill the life support system's oxygen and nitrogen tanks of the Soyuz 6. As long-duration crews now routinely swap spacecraft with incoming crew, the Soyuz 35 craft was used to return the visiting Soyuz 36 crew to Earth, while the resident crew returned in Soyuz 37. Cosmonauts Leonid Popov and Valery Ryumin spent 185 days in space, setting a new space endurance record, and hosted 4 visiting crews, including the first Hungarian, Cuban, and Vietnamese cosmonauts. Today in 2010, the final stage of the Mars 500 project commences. The Mars 500 mission was a psychosocial isolation experiment conducted between 2007 and 2011 by Russia, the European Space Agency, and China in preparation for an unspecified future manned spaceflight to Mars. The experiment's facility was located at the Russian Academy of Sciences Institute of Biomedical Problems in Moscow, Russia, where the mock-up facility simulated an Earth-Mars shuttle spacecraft, an ascent-descent craft, and the Martian surface. The experiment was intended to yield valuable psychological and medical data on the effects of the planned long-term deep space mission. The experiment permitted the study of the technological challenges, work capability of crew, and management of long-distance spaceflight. Communications lag, autonomy, resource rationing, health, conditions of isolation, and hermetically closed, confined environment are the main particularities of the Martian flight. The 520-day final stage of the experiment, which was intended to simulate a full-length manned mission, began today in 2010 and ended November 4, 2011. The stage included a simulation of a manned Mars landing, with 3 simulated Mars walks carried out in February 2011. When the experiment ended, all participants reported that they were in optimal, physical, and psychological condition. During the Mars 500 experiment, related additional experiments aimed at studying the effects of radiation, health problems associated with weightlessness, the impact of fire on board the ship, and others are conducted, and in January of 2013, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences reported that 4 of the 6 crew members had considerable problems sleeping, and some avoided exercise and would hide away from others, behaviors compared to animals in hibernation. Circadian rhythm of autonomic nervous system activity was also dampened during the confinement. This is SkyTour News. I'm Amanda Curran.